5 Just Stop Oil activists were arrested last night after interrupting a performance of Les Miserables in London's West End. Footage shows the crowd at the Sondheim Theatre booing as the eco-warriors climbed onto the stage holding an orange banner during the famous protest song One Day More, and then fastening themselves to the stage using bicycle locks before the show was inevitably called off. It's the looks on the protesters' faces that say it all, those glorious expressions of self-satisfied moral superiority learned from the master of eco-posturing, Greta Thunberg. We know better than you, is what they were saying. Just Stop Oil said in a statement, 4 people are locked to the stage of the French Revolution-themed show. Valjean steals bread to feed a starving child. How long before we are all forced to steal? Now, as someone who is not a fan of Les Mis, I, for one, would have been thrilled to have the show cut short by protesters if I were there, even protesters as absurd as Just Stop Oil. But for those in the audience who had spent up to £200 a ticket, it was a ruined night. And for what purpose? The audience were left asking, what on earth has this got to do with us? Just like the crowds at football and cricket matches, the snooker spectators, the tourists visiting galleries or Madame Tussauds, or anyone just trying to drive their car to work in recent years, everyone is left asking, why are Just Stop Oil protesting here? What has it got to do with me going about my daily life? Just Stop Oil has told us why. They're demanding a total halt on licensing and consents for all future exploration, development and production of all fossil fuels in the UK. And they say they're going to continue protesting until that happens. One of the protesters last night, Hannah Taylor, issued a statement after the Les Mis protest saying, the show starts with Jean Valjean stealing a loaf of bread to feed his sister's starving child. How long before we are all forced to steal loaves of bread? How long before there are riots on the streets? The show cannot go on. We are facing catastrophe. New oil and gas means crop failure, starvation and death. It is an act of war on the global south and an utter betrayal of young people. Pull yourself together. Well, Hannah, I can help you answer some of those questions. How long before we're all forced to steal loaves of bread? Well, how long before there are riots on the streets? It depends on whether Just Stop Oil get their way or not. The continued use of fossil fuels is the reason why we have had enough food and hungry people aren't forced to riot in the streets. Your plan to get rid of fossil fuels will turn us back to the pre-industrial dark ages when people routinely starved to death because we didn't mass-produce cheap and plentiful food like we do now. And we are not, as you say, Hannah, facing catastrophe. None of the evidence points to anything remotely catastrophic about the global climate warming slightly. On the contrary, plant life and animals, including humans, have always flourished in warmer temperatures. And new oil and gas won't mean crop failure, starvation or death. Quite the opposite. They will mean plentiful energy supplies to feed us and enrich our lives in the West and help drag billions of people out of poverty in the developing world. Once again, the eco-cultists have sought to impose their quasi-religious extremism on the rest of us. And once again, yep, we're discussing Just Stop Oil. But we're not playing a game or playing their game. It's a good thing. I'm always happy to talk about their exploits because every time we do, more people get to see these protesters for what they really are. An ill-informed, authoritarian, hypocritical, doom-mongering eco-cult. And now millions of Brits, and even the Prime Minister, it seems, have woken up to exactly what abandoning fossil fuels will mean for ordinary people's lives. They just aren't going to buy this nonsense anymore. Just Stop Oil may have ruined a performance of Les Mis, but the only people who are going to end up miserable will be the eco-activists, because they're never going to get their way.